Hello, and welcome to Midlakes Dive scoring training. This is training for parents on how to score the dives at the dive meets. Scoring is a really great first volunteer job. The scoring table typically has 3 or 4 people volunteering. The first person is the recorder. They write down the scores that the judges give. The calculator does the math to calculate the score for the dive. The verifier checks the math. And if you have a fourth person, that's the awards person, they'll compare the scores for all the divers in the competition group and prepare the award ribbons. The awards roll can be done by the other 3 scorers if you don't have a fourth volunteer. What do you need for scoring? The supplies the scorers need are pencils, not pens, and erasers because mistakes happen. Also calculators for multiplying the degree of difficulty, meet labels and ribbons, dual meet scoring sheets to determine the winner at the end of the meet, and rocks. Yep, we use rocks or other paperweights to keep the dive sheets from blowing around during the meet. The way the meet progresses is that an announcer will call out the diver's name, their club, and the dive they are performing. The diver will execute the dive. The judges will rate the dive using the dive scorecards. The meet referee might notify that there's a modified score or a maximum score due to a balk or a failed dive or other infraction. And then the scoring table records the scores that the judges gave, and they strike out the high and low scores, leaving 3 scores out of the 5. Then, while the next dive is being called and executed, the scoring table gets to work. They total the remaining dive scores, they multiply the total by the degree of difficulty, and then continue adding together the cumulative score of all the dives. We'll dig into this more specifically in a few minutes. After each dive score has been calculated, the scoring table passes the dive sheet back to the announcer. Make sure to keep them in order for the next round of dives. Again, use rocks or other paperweights to keep the dive sheets from blowing away. Then the announcer will continue to call each diver as the scoring process flows through the scoring table. Here's a sample score sheet. You can see that Jamie from Best in the West dive team has performed 4 dives. You'll notice as you're scoring, the first dive is a required dive and has a set degree of difficulty. It does not matter if the position changes from tuck to pike to straight. The remaining dives have degrees of difficulty that are based on the type of dive and the position. So here's how it works. After the dive is executed, the announcer will ask for scores, and the recorder will capture the judge scores as they're announced and write them on the dive sheet. Then strike out the high and the low scores, leaving just 3 scores. If a score has a half, you can add a notation of a straight mark or over the top or to the right of the number. This makes it a lot faster when recording and a lot less messy than looking for the 0.5s and less confusing. There are some exceptions when you are recording scores. If the meet referee detects a balk, that's where the diver had a significant break in their start of the dive and the reset. The meet referee will announce there has been a balk. The announcer will announce the scores just as they were judged, but the recorder will do something different. The recorder will write down each score, subtracting 2 points from each one as they write them down, and notate balk on that line. For example, the announcer calls out scores of 4, 4.5, 4, 4, 4.5, and the recorder writes down 2, 2.5, 2, 2, 2.5, and also writes balk next to the dive scoring line. Remember the little hash mark next to the 2, it can be above or next to it, denotes the half, and that's a shorthand. For a failed dive, the diver did the wrong dive, and the meet referee will let the scoring table announcer know that there's been a failed dive. The announcer will say no score, and the recorder will write down 0 in each judge scoring box. Don't write failed dive down, because the word fail isn't nice when the dive coach and the divers look at the sheet later. Other infractions, like a broken position or a other maximum score, will result in the meet referee telling the judges that there is a max score for the dive. So the announcer will read off the scores, and the recorder will just write them down just as they're announced. But if you happen to notice that a judge scored higher than the maximum and nobody else caught it, you could let the announcer know, and the announcer or recorder can tell the meet referee to have the judge correct their dive score. Don't assume that if the maximum is a 4 and the judge says 5, that it will automatically be a 4. The judge has a chance to correct it and might change it to a 3.5 or something else. The judging chart we have available is available for each of the judges, the meet referee, and usually the announcer and scoring table will have a copy. That way everybody can look it up if there's any question on how to score an infraction. After the recorder has recorded the scores from the dive, they may have time to add them up for the net judging score. If they don't have time and they're moving on to the next dive, the calculator will do this. In the example below, 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 equals 13.5. The calculator will then take the sheet from the recorder and begin the multiplication process and multiply the 13.5 by the degree of difficulty, 1.9 in this instance, and get the final dive score for the dive. And here it's 25.65. The calculator will track the ongoing total as each new dive is scored. So on the second dive below, you can see that the net judging total was 13 and was multiplied by the degree of difficulty of 1.7 for the score of 22.1. This is then added to the previous dive to get the cumulative score. The verifier receives the sheet next and will review the dive sheet to check that the high and low scores were removed correctly, to make sure that the remaining scores were added correctly to the net judging total. We'll check the multiplication of the degree of difficulty and also check the cumulative score. We often find mistakes, so everything should be done in pencil, and please use erasers. As the meet proceeds, the score for each dive is added to the total of all the previous dives. At the end of the dive, the cumulative total is produced, and that gives you the diver's final score. And in championship meets, an extra dive will be done, and the bottom row will also get used. After all the divers have competed for their competition group, we get to the awards phase. The scoring table, or the awards person at the scoring table, will compare all of the divers' scores in each competition group and assign 1st through 6th places and fill in the final place square. Then the awards person continues to fill in the label for each diver and put it on the appropriate color of ribbon for 1st through 6th place. If you do have more than 6 divers in a competition group, you can use participation ribbons for 7th place and higher. At the very end of the meet, when all of the competition groups have completed their dives, the 8 and under girls A, 8 and under boys A, 8 and under girls B, 8 and under boys B, etc., 10 and unders, 12s, 14s, and 15 and overs. Then you will complete, the scoring table will complete the final scoring sheets for the dual meet. Make sure to put the divers on who are A divers on the A sheet and the divers who are B divers on the B sheet. When you complete the scoring sheets, enter in the divers' names and scores for the 1st through 5th places. Again, remembering to separate A and B, and indicate the team points depending on whether the diver is on the home team or the away team. The team points will be 6 points for 1st place, 4 points for 2nd place, 3 points for 3rd, 2 points for 4th, and 1 point for 5th. So everybody contributes to team success. Then when that's completed for all age groups, add the scores for the home team and the away team, and you can determine the meet winner. The coach or parent rep should each get a copy of this. So you'll want to fill this out in duplicate at the meet and give one to each team, and somebody will also take a photo of it and send it to the Midlakes Dive reps later. Winding up, if you have any questions, additional resources are available on the Midlakes website. You can also check in with your team coach or parent rep, and we're always happy to hear from you at midlakesdiving@gmail.com. That's it. Congratulations. You've completed the scorer training, and you are now qualified to score at a Midlakes Dive meet. Enjoy the season. Thank you so much for volunteering.